what we have tried to do is to set up standard programs that, and use a design program if you can. And you'll have a number of different formats that you can save it in. One of the biggest issues today is the cross-platform changes. People use Macs, people use PCs, and a lot of times you lose something in translation. Normally what is done is the program is set up, and then if you're going to send it into the printer, to your printer you need to have a disk, you have to collect all the elements that are in it, you have to supply the typefaces and send it off, which then you would get a proof back, a color proof from your printer. Today they've come up with something that I think is the greatest, and that is the PDF files. PDF files are, there is no problem with interpretation no matter what you use. All of the fonts and everything are embedded, they can't change. So when you send a PDF file, it is going to be exactly what you want. Now a high-res PDF file is commonly used today, and the benefit of that is you don't run the risk of something changing in your layout. So we run primarily high-res PDFs unless different types of jobs. Today also we are faced with what is called gang printing, and that would be called online printing. I'm sure most everybody here is familiar with that. The idea of online printing or gang printing is that on a 4-color or 6-color press you can run a sheet that's 40 inches wide. All right? You want a business card done. That business card is then along with 100 other business cards. They're all put on one sheet. What they then print for is called pleasing color. In other words, it's not exact, it's not perfect, but it overall will cover the card. If you ask for a color proof from an online printer or a gang run printer, they will tell you that the accuracy of the proof they're giving you is between 80 and 85% correct. So there's a 15% swing. My point is that you don't need a PDF if there's going to be a 15% swing in your production. Offset printing, which specializes in scaling down and printing oftentimes one job, 2 jobs at a time, you're able to control your control your color much better. So there are advantages and disadvantages. When you get into a longer run, offset printing is really where the price is. With today's technology, they've changed everything. Make Ready is much faster. It's called direct to plate, where you will have an image. The plates are mounted on a press, and then the image is actually etched into the plate while it's on press. Now, the advantage of that is now you don't, your make ready time and your register time, which means that all your dots have to line up, is done much faster. It cuts the make ready time in half. I guess one last thing that I should cover is your DPI. A DPI minimum should be 300 DPI if you're setting up a program. 350 is preferable, 600 is excellent. The problem is the higher the DPI, the larger the file is. So if you have a number of graphics and photos in that file, it can be absolutely huge. But that is critical. That's why you cannot download a picture from the internet while it looks good on screen, because monitor screens are set up to read 72 DPI and they look perfect. You print it out and there's a tremendous difference. I mean, it's like connect a dot. And there's a wide difference.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. Is there really a difference in digital printing between 300 and 600 DPI as far as the final product?
Yeah.
You can see the difference?
Well, you got to use a glass, but yeah, you can see the difference. Human?
Yeah, I mean, if you get a brochure that's printed 300 or 600, can you really see the difference?
I believe so. I believe so. It just makes everything is clearer. The more DPI that you get.
And I've tried and I've never been able to tell the difference. And
Was
the
it
file sizes go up by
tremendous
a factor
amount?
of 5.
Right. Did you print it digitally?
Oh, I sent off to be book published, different book publishers that
Okay.
publish 300 DPI
Files.
files, or just creating higher resolution PDFs.
Right, and then it also is involved in what type of screen they
What kind
use,
of-
200, 300 line screen, and what kind of presses it's
Well, they're digital.
put on.
It's
It's digital.
So there's no screen really?
Yeah, right. But I think for example, if you pick up, you go to a car place like a Mercedes or one of these high-scale car places, and you pick it up, they will give you a brochure. Now, you can definitely tell the difference between that brochure and the standard printing. One of the other things is the type of paper that you print on. When you print it on an inkjet or desktop paper, that if you're using an uncoated sheet would be like your 20-pound bond, the ink is absorbed and spread so that your images are not as clear. And it really looks different if you put that on versus a smooth offset sheet, which will then give you much better color. A lot of times everybody thinks that the cost of the paper is really the determining factor. And in some cases it is. We, for example, print on totally synthetic paper, 100%. It is, you can't tear it, you can't rip it apart, you can't do anything. And it takes a whole bunch of different chemicals, and that paper is extremely expensive. But in today's standard world, they give you a choice of 80-pound enamel or 100-pound. Your costs are negligible because we, for example, buy it in carloads. So the cost per thousand is maybe $2, $3, $4, $5 a thousand difference, but is definitely different in the texture. And the sheets that you're handed right now, this is on a 100-pound gloss enamel. Now this sheet is a special sheet to be printed for digital printing. In a traditional offset printing, the way the ink is done is that it dries into the paper. This is a surface dry. In other words, there's dryers in it. A lot of times they'll have heaters as it goes through that fuse it. But in the offset printing, the ink is actually absorbed into the sheet. And that's why enamel is pretty much the standard today, because it holds color more constantly. It gives you better quality of printing. And my time is up, and I know we just ran through a whole bunch of stuff.
Quick question. When it comes to sending files to a printer, email, or FTP or whatever,
Right.
How big of a file can they accept? I mean, like let's say a PDF for one page of a publication would be 20 megabytes. But if I increase the DPI and that all of a sudden it's 75 or 100, is there a limit? They don't care? I mean, do they have machines on the other end that can take all this in?
Well, the main part is their FTP site, is that how much volume can that hold? A lot of times what they'll ask you to do is send the disk, because then you don't have that problem. You can also, if you're having files, you can compress them. And
well, like if I send them the file for a publication and it's 400 megabytes, that's obviously it's no issue because they're not yelling at me. So.
No. Usually these websites can take, just huge files in megs. I can't tell you what the file thing would be, but a lot of places, 200-300 meg, it's not an issue. Plus, as soon as they download it, they dump it from the server. So, any other questions? All right. If you have any questions afterward, or you want to see some of the things that we do, I'll be here.
Thank you.